if you want success in your business, operation, organization, you have to have people feel as though not only what they do matters, but that they matter. And so I spend a lot of time helping organizations understand that if your people don't get that what they do and who they are matters, you're not getting the best of them. You're not getting the best of them.
As always, we begin by acknowledging the original stewards of the various lands that we are on. We also acknowledge our ancestors. We acknowledge all those who toil without compassion or compensation. We acknowledge all the elders and community stalwarts whose shoulders we stand on as we build, share, learn together for our collective liberation and sovereignty. So, if you can please do us the honors by introducing yourself to our listeners and viewers and tell us about your remarkable work.
Well, thank you so much. My name is April Howe. I am the founder and CEO of Crayon Strategies. We are a organizational culture organization. We work with different organizations in all sectors to help them figure out what culture is and the culture that they want. And then help them sort of implement the tools that help them get there. So that could be anything from leadership coaching to demographic surveys to creating, culture canvases. It's really a wide variety of tools that help organizations get where they want to be. And it is the passion that I have for this that drives me forward and hopefully the business forward. And so been doing that for as a business, my own business, for the last 4.5 years. Prior to that, I was Deputy Minister of Fisheries and Aquaculture for the province of Nova Scotia. Did that for 2 years and really enjoyed that role. I would say that it was an interesting segue in my career. But prior to that, I worked for the Department of Justice and the Department of the Public Service Commission. And both of those roles were really more around community, culture, and justice.
That's fantastic. Wow, that is very powerful. So what is your why? Like as far as why you went this route, you know? If just a brief.
Yeah. And that's, the why is probably one of the most powerful questions. It's easy to answer the what I do. The why is a very powerful question. So thank you for asking. I would say my why is rooted in a few different things. Partially my background, both sides of my family, both my parents were born and raised in Africville in Nova Scotia. And so that narrative, that story and the narrative around, having a place of being and not necessarily feeling like where you were was where people, welcomed you. And that really had a very important role in my upbringing and the narrative in which I grew up. It was also important around establishing what resilience looked like to me, and really understanding that how other people see you doesn't make it truth, does not make it fact. And so my parents teaching me that is a really big part of my why. And my why really became around helping people establish, that they matter, and how we do that in the workplace. How do we let people know? How do we show? How do we indicate that people matter? It is a basic human need. And I think that that's the why around the work that I do.
Wow, that's a beautiful why and very in depth. I mean, we're talking history that is so deep rooted in culture and, and impact, on our daily lives and our upbringing and our childhood. I mean, it's very deep rooted. So I see where you're coming from. Thank you for that. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
In your business, like what are some of the challenges and barriers you face in your work and how have you overcome them or in the process of overcoming them?
Oh, the barriers, the challenges. Where do I start? It's interesting. I would have to name as one of the challenges that I think I see often is helping helping organizations and leadership understand that this is not an add-on or a nice to have, but that establishing culture and establishing a strong, healthy culture is a necessity. If you want success in your business, operation, organization, you have to have people feel as though not only what they do matters, but that they matter. And so organizations, there are operational and strategic goals and strategies and the like, and they don't often see this kind of work as part of that. They often see it as a nice to have or an add-on. And so I spend a lot of time helping organizations understand that if your people don't get that what they do and who they are matters, you're not getting the best of them. You're not getting the best of them. And I mean, there's also the argument of it's just the right thing to do, but certainly it's important for just sustainability of an organization. It is important for people to understand this about themselves and what they do. That is probably one of the challenges or the biggest challenge, and part of that helps organizations determine how much they're going to invest in something like this, right? If they don't get the why, they'll struggle to understand the investment. And so it's an interesting dialogue that I often have to help them understand that, what I'm doing is an important pillar of who you are as an organization, your DNA, if I can put it that way, and that matters. That is going to, elevate or not, your organization's performance. And so it's the halfway line between the realities of business as well as the realities of humans. It brings those two pieces together.
And it should, because I think there's always this monolithic, when you would see in business and organizations, like, you would think it's this huge, but when you really get to the nitty gritty of it, it's human beings who came together in a conscious thought to create something. And then now you are impacting other people who are also in your organization, in your business. So now we have to now individualize each person's feelings, thoughts,
Right.
emotions, so when you create this monolith, when you create this organization, it can get so overwhelming. You're not even thinking of the fine tune. You're not thinking of the smaller pieces, which have huge impact,
Huge.
so
Yeah,
yeah.
that is so well said. It's interesting. One of the things that I try to share with clients that I work with is you may have a great idea or a great product or a great service, but the any organization, no matter what your organization, is made up of ideas and energy. That's what I say. Ideas, energies, decisions. Um, that's really what drives an organization. And if that is not recognized, that really it's people are the organization, people are the product, people are the service, regardless of what it is that you sell, deliver, right? It can't be done without those people behind it making it happen. And the decisions and ideas and all of the things that they have oftentimes are because of the culture that's been created that allows for those ideas and decisions to grow and flourish. So I always believe that you have to go to the core, and the core of any organization is the people. We all say it, right? But how you behave it. And so the work that I do helps an organization behave it.
I love that. I love that. Thank you so much. So let me ask you, how do you feel about the future of social impact?
Hmm. You're really hitting home right now with these questions. You know, it's tough. And I'm going to be frank. We live in a time where social impact is questioned. Um, there's a segregation, if I can put it that way, in terms of how different people, sides, if you will, see um, social impact and what we should be doing as a society, what we should be doing as not for profits, as what we should be doing for each other as communities. And it would be easy to say it's looking kind of bleak. And perhaps I choose to live in my own optimism. Maybe that's it. I always feel that communities will figure out what they need to do to survive and thrive. And so when we talk about this in the idea of social impact, I think that it's really a matter of deciding what narrative you want to pay attention to, what narratives you want to invest in, and as either organizations or society, what it is that we really need to be doing to make sure that we thrive. And I think there's a lot of confusion around that today, a lot of confusion. I think a lot of organizations are very clear on their path. I think a lot of communities are clear on their path. I think the challenge becomes when it becomes politicized, when the government of the day gets involved, and then we've got different ideas around what matters right now. And so I think that creates challenges. But I'm going to say that I think the social impact and the future of it, I choose to believe stay strong because I need to believe that. Uh, and so I think that's an important position that we all need to take.
Mm. Absolutely. I totally agree. And I've done many interviews, and every time I ask this question, I would say majority are pretty hopeful. One said what was the terminology? It's like she was, it was this way that she did it. But anyway, it was so true in a sense where you're like, you're worried, but at the same time you're hopeful. You know what I mean? Or you're pissed off. Like she said, she was oh yes, pissed off optimist. That's what she said.
I love that. Yeah. That I get it. I get it. I get it.
That's it. And it's and
Yeah.
it's and it's valid. What she me saying is valid because, from all that we've been seeing, and yes, progress has been made, but to me it's a snail's pace. And also you're
Yes.
dealing with still a lot of issues that should have been eradicated a long time ago. And so what keeps my hope alive is the next generation, these Gen Zs that are
Mm,
coming. They want to know the who, what, when, where, and why. And they are holding us accountable to the things that we're doing. You know what I mean? So it's just like, uh, we just want to be able to continue to create that foundation so we can pass the torch on to the next generation who care about this, because not all Gen Z's care, but they want action. From what I've been speaking with a few, they want change. They do want change. They want things to get easier. They want things to get more lighter, where they don't have to worry about the pressures of this life, make things more accessible to all,
yeah.
so.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. It's a really great point. And that generation, if we look about powers or positions of power in society, you've got some baby boomers and a bunch of Gen Xers that are in the power positions. But we're slowly morphing out, right? We're retiring out. And that new generation is coming in. And the more that happens, the better in my mind, because they're asking tougher questions, they're expecting more, and they're ready to do. more, right? They're ready to put themselves at risk more than Gen X did, which was ready to put themselves at risk more than, the baby boomers. And every generation, I think, really understands the dire need. And so I have so much faith and hope in that generation. I really do. Um, I don't want to say they're going to be our saviors, but they're certainly going to push us forward quite a bit.
Absolutely, absolutely. Oh man, and then I pray both of us are alive to see a good portion of that too.
Let's hope. Let's hope.
That's it. That's it. Well, April, this has been a beautiful, impactful, empowering conversation. So, if I think what I'll end it up with is I need your words of wisdom. Let's close it with your closing thoughts and your calls to actions for the people watching.
Wow, that's an important statement. I'd love to make. I think, in terms of wisdom, I don't know that I give wisdom per se. I have theories on just about everything, but I do think that that kind of optimism that we need to hold on tight to, we have to. It is not optional. We have to. And if there's anything that I could say, is that we cannot live in the narrative that everything is over, it's done. You know, there's so many different communities out there that are striving and making forward momentum. And that could be anything from cultural communities, Black community, the LGBTQ2A plus community. There's so many communities out there that are unforgivingly moving themselves forward. Um, and I wish I could find a way to support every single one of them. But my point is that we all have to be thinking that there is room for positive forward momentum. There's always room for that. And so sometimes it's, this much, sometimes it's that much, but we have to stay there. We have to stay in that optimism. And it's not blind, but it needs to be, you really have to commit to that. And I just refuse to believe that anything else will happen. So call it naive, call it, blind. Right now, it's what drives me, and I think it's what drives a lot of people. So that positive forward momentum, I think, is really, really important that we need to hang on to. And the other thing that I'll say is that, as I kind of mentioned earlier, we definitely have to be very clear about the fact that, not everything in this world is amazing, but we definitely have a narrative that matters and that every person matters. Every person matters the same. We all matter the same.
That's it. That's it. But we thank you so much for your wise wisdom. We wish you much success in all your endeavors. And I know this isn't a goodbye, so we will close the way that we began by acknowledging the original stewards of the various lands that we are on. We also acknowledge our ancestors. We acknowledge all those who toil without compassion or compensation. We acknowledge all the elders and community stalwarts whose shoulders we stand on as we build, share, learn together for our collective liberation and sovereignty. So, April, once again, thank you so much, and we'll definitely be in touch. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your essence. I
All
appreciate
right,
you.
dear.
Thank
Okay,
you.
bye
Bye bye.
bye.